Welcome to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. You can visit Dr. Johnson's blog at benwoodpost.com. Dr. Johnson's works can be found at drbenwoodjohnson.com. You can also support Dr. Johnson on Patreon, the link to which is in the description. Hey, welcome to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. Today is January 27th, 2020, and this is podcast number 42. Let me say that this is our last installment for the month of January, but we are going to continue talking about time. Now, time is a fluid concept. In this podcast, I talk about time not necessarily from a scientific standpoint. Rather, I talk about time from a philosophical standpoint. In this pre-recorded session, I talk about time in terms of how it is perceived by human beings. And as a result of our perception of time, we have come to understand our reality within time itself. But the concept, as I said in the beginning, is very fluid. So what is understood about time sometimes does not make sense. So I don't intend to change that. But I do intend to share my understanding of time, at least from a philosophical lens. So without further ado, let us delve right into it. One of the requirements of time, one of the essence of time is the notion that time is always moving forward. When you look at time in itself, you can see that time has no beginning. And because time has no beginning, time has absolutely no foreseeable end. Why is this such a characteristic of time? I believe that there is a mathematical way of looking at time. There is a mathematical way of discovering time, of understanding time. Now, I think this is going to be the project of my life, and I will be working on that. But let me start by laying out some foundations for this. When you look at time, one of the things you see is that time is relative to one thing only. Time is relative to the present. It is relative to the moment in which it is experienced by the entity that is experiencing that time. It is certainly true that the earth is turning. The earth has a revolutionary movement in which it goes around itself. As it performs this movement, time is understood from a human standpoint, because humans are able to look at certain patterns in that time. Humans are able to look at certain ways in which time affects entities within nature. And as a result of that, they are able to predict, or at least understand, where time has been, how long time has existed, Okay? And what are the potential for time to continue to be in the future? Those understandings have given us years, calendars, seasonal changes, and understandings that are based or that create our culture. Our whole culture is based on this notion that time is relative to the revolution of the planet. Okay? So that time, according to human perception, is a limited time. Of course, naturally, if you are going to look at time based on how many times the earth has revolved around itself, how many times the earth during its revolution or revolutions has created certain patterns, certain effects, physical effects, which can be understood through the effects of time. Okay? If this is the way we understand time, then there is no time. Because that time is not the time of nature. That time is not the time of the universe. It is rather the time human beings understand in relationship to the presence on the land, or in relationship to the presence in the universe. And human beings understand the universe based on the amount of time planet Earth has revolved around itself. So what a human being understands about himself is based on what a human being can understand about himself, because the human being is limited to what it can know about itself. If what it can know about himself is based on what is readily available for him to know about himself. So therefore, time, as it is understood from a human standpoint, is erroneous, because time can never be the moment the earth started to revolve around itself. If time were or could be understood within the context or within our understanding of the moment the earth started to revolve around itself, then there would be no time. Time would be fabricated. Time would be something, in a sense, that was created out of a necessity to understand the present. In other words, time would be this thing that indeed has a point A and a point B, and therefore a point C in the middle. This humanistic approach of time cannot be the definition of time. This humanistic approach of time cannot explain time in and of itself. Because all it does, it explains the relationship the human being has with his time, or with everything else around it. This only explains the relationship that the human being has with everything else around it. It also explains the relationship other human beings have had with everything else around them. Thereby, it cannot depict a clear or a real picture of time. It certainly depicts a picture of the time human beings spent, have been around, but it does not necessarily explain time, and thereby it cannot explain a human promenade in time. Because the time that the human being is contemplated is a time that is or was fabricated by human beings based on their understanding of their environment. It is not a time that is based on time itself. It is a time that is based on the human being understanding of time as it is within the environment itself. When we look at the universe, we see that there are many planets. If we look around the universe, we see that there is an infinite domain of entity that lies either beneath or within our visibility, be it a telescope or anything, as long as a human being can see it. As long as a human being can see it. As long as a human being can see it. Okay? It is therefore a time based on the human being understanding of time. It is not a definition of time itself. The question we must ask is, what is time? How do we understand time? And I think this is where I want to spend the rest of my life, coming up with a mathematical equation or something that can explain time. I am positive that time can be explained. There are so many elements within time. There are so many elements within time. There is the present, which is a presence that is based on a particular entity being at a particular time, at a particular moment within the context of location and space. And there's also an entity that is evolving within the context of what nature allows it to be. In other words, what a human being can be is within the purview of what its nature allows it or him to be. So in that sense, there are plenty to go on. But there's an ultimate time. There is the ultimate time that exists out there. That ultimate time is the time that makes the time the human being perceives as their time exists. So now, in other words, the fact that there is a planet called Earth revolving around a particular universe in which there are all sorts of laws, and particularly law of gravity, that affects every entity within nature, one must understand that there ought to be the ultimate time. And that ultimate time does not have a point A, a point B, nor a point C. And I am not implying that that ultimate time is eternal time, because eternal cannot exist unless there's the possibility for eternal not to exist. We do not know what eternal is. Thereby, we cannot proclaim eternity. Okay? What we do know is that everything here on this planet succumb not to the law of gravity, but to the law of time. Because the law of time is the ultimate law. It is the ultimate law that makes everything possible. The law of time is the ultimate law that allows gravity to interact with itself. It's the ultimate element that allows everything within nature to exist. And that time is the ultimate thing that allows everything not to exist. In other words, time in its mirror image, which is the possibility of no time, is what we need to understand, is what we need to figure out, is what we need to pioneer. And I think there is a way of looking at time. There is a mathematical way of finding time what it is. Okay? There is a way. There is an ultimate way of finding time. What is time? What is time? And that is the question I need to answer. Time is not what we've been told. Because if what we've been told were time, then there would be no time. Okay? What we know about time is erroneous, because what we know about time is only based on what we know about our time. And what we know about our time is based on time, the universal time, which is the time we know nothing about. What is the universal time? What is this universal time? I do not have an answer to it, okay? But I know there is a universal time. I know there is a universal time, okay? And that universal time is the time that I need to find. How do I calculate that time? I don't know.